These are old computer speakers that I use for the spirit box. Very old. Rachel, are you here? Viva, I just heard you say your name. Viva, are you Rachel's sister? Viva, can you give me any insight into what happened to Rachel, how she died? Rachel, were you pregnant when you died? Were you with child? I know I've asked this a lot, but I don't think I've got a direct answer from you. Alright, so I've been doing, I got the spirit box going here while I'm working on this, just in case any of these ghosts have anything they want to add into this while I'm talking about this. But I've been doing some research into the Salem, Massachusetts execution of witches, and come to find out that in the mid-1800s, during the mid-1800s, Maine was in the grips of witchcraft hysteria. Which means back in the mid-1800s, a lot of people were gathered from Maine, mostly females, the majority of them females, and taken down to Salem, Massachusetts, where they were convicted of witchcraft and executed. Most of them burned at the stakes. And a lot of these females that were accused of this witchcraft, more than likely a lot of them were innocent. More than likely a lot of them weren't even involved in this stuff. But there was such a panic about the outbreak of witchcraft back in those days that, I mean, if anybody even did something wrong or out of the ordinary, they were accused of being a witch and they were put to death. Now, what I find ironic about all of this, remember, this was in the 1800s, the mid-1800s. Maine was in a hysteria about witches. Now, three of the cemeteries, the smallest cemeteries here in Carmel, which is North Carmel Cemetery, the Village Cemetery, and Ruggles Cemetery. Those are the three smallest cemeteries here in Carmel. And I did some research into these three cemeteries about younger females age 30 or below into their teens that are buried in these cemeteries. Now, between the years of 1840s to the 1890s, there's 45 females buried there under the age of 30 and above the age of 12. Keep in mind, back in 1840, the population of Carmel was 520 people. By 1890, the population was 1,066 people. But this is what I found interesting, and this is the list of the females buried in the three smaller cemeteries. I did not include the largest cemetery here in Carmel, Highland Cemetery. I did not include that cemetery of the females buried there in the mid-1800s. And that cemetery is probably larger than the three small cemeteries combined. So when I talk about this, keep in mind I did not include the younger females buried at Highland Cemetery, the largest cemetery here in Carmel. Now, I want to talk about the years between 1850s and 1860s. This would take us to the mid-1800s when this witchcraft hysteria broke out in Maine. Now, in 1850s, 11 females under the age of 30, very young, I mean in their 20s, most of them, I mean early to mid-20s, in the 1850s, 11 females are buried in these three small cemeteries. In the 1860s, 13 females between that age category are buried in these three small cemeteries. But it's interesting that during that witchcraft hysteria that broke out in Maine, 24 females in their early 20s were buried in these three cemeteries. Now that's, what? That's a lot of females. 24 females during the 1850s and 1860s under the age of 30. And like I said, I'm not even including the large cemetery. I mean, we're probably talking 3 times that amount. And I just think it's strange how so many young females died back in the mid-1800s to early 1900s. And I haven't even included the other ones in the 1900s. There's numerous young females that died. In fact, some of these females on the list here was married to a man. She died. He remarried another female, young female. She died. Married another young female. She died, all in their 20s. But what's strange is a lot of these young females, the husbands either lived to an old ripe age or their parents lived to be an old ripe age. I mean, you know, they died in their 60s to 70s. Don't get me wrong, there's a number of young males that are buried in the cemeteries too. A lot of them died in wars and illnesses, and I know that there's illness outbreaks. I mean, there's epidemics that broke out. But my question is, why did these epidemics only hit these females between the age of, let's just put an age in there between 18 and 25, because that's the majority of these 18 to 25. So that's a lot of females. I mean, that's a lot of people that died in a 20-year period that are in that age bracket. I know probably some died of giving childbirth. I know that medical treatment wasn't like it is today. But there again, why did all the husbands survive? Why did their mothers survive and lived in old age? I mean, why in this age category? And we don't have a whole lot of history about how many of these females in the town of Carmel back then was possibly accused of witchcraft. Now, was there witchcraft beliefs here in Maine back in the mid-1800s? Yes, there was. There was witchcraft beliefs in Carmel back in those days. A lot of it. In fact, there are still these type of beliefs around up to this day. I mean, these type of beliefs and practices have not gone away. Now, I'm not here to start downing anybody's religion. That's not what this is about. I'm talking about the hysteria that happened in the mid-1800s. And how many females were falsely accused for something they didn't do. I mean, if some man didn't want to be with his wife anymore, all he had to do was tell authorities that, hey, she's a witch, testify to it, they burn her at a stake. Another thing that's interesting, the state of Maine is the first state in the United States to have a documented haunting case. The state of Maine was the first state to execute anybody when they became the state of the Union. Maine was the first state to ever execute anyone. There's a lot of interesting facts about the state of Maine that a lot of people aren't aware of. And during the late 1700s and into the mid 1800s, there were a lot of dark times. A lot of dark things happened in this state. A lot of dark beliefs, a lot of hysteria. But what's interesting also in the state of Maine is the amount of mass murders that took place in this state. I mean, for a state, lower population, I mean, these are some of the mass murders that took place in the state of Maine. Now, on these lists of people that I have on here, the females that have died, there are some names that do look familiar while I've been doing paranormal investigations. But one thing I wanted to point out that I thought was very interesting, during the time I started these paranormal investigations into this house, the names that kept coming up repeatedly in this house are Paul Haskell, Howard Haskell, not just in this house, I'm sorry, in this house and in the Village of Carmel area. Paul Haskell, Howard Haskell, Anna, Brian, Viva, Frankie, Melissa, Wayne, Alfred, Donna, Marcia, Fred, Franklin, Deborah, Edna, Edward, Robert, Bob, and actually there is quite a few more. With the exception of Rachel, and I think this is important to point out, with the exception of Rachel, the names I've just mentioned here, not one of these spirits or ghosts has ever asked for help. The names that I mentioned, they have never asked for help. Naomi Mitchell never approached me asking for help. I went on my own and started an investigation on the Naomi Mitchell murder, and the first voice that I came across was that of J. Sherman Gray, the man that was accused of murdering Naomi Mitchell. He's the one that brought up to me that he did not kill her. And when I went back and listened to that evidence, and it was so convincing that I had to open up an investigation on it, and that's when, you know, the Naomi Mitchell investigation started. But Naomi Mitchell never asked me for help. Where's Naomi Mitchell at now? Did she move on? Is she no longer here? And I just think it's kind of strange when I talk to these ghosts and when they say, help me, a lot of times, probably 99.9% of the time, one, they will not give me their name, and probably 90% of the time, they don't tell me what they want me to do to help. Okay, so how do you guys want me to help Rachel? What are you guys wanting me to do about Rachel? Okay, the voice, sir, the man that just said help, very loud and clear. What's your name and what do you want me to do? Okay, please understand something. When this thing, what we call a spirit box, is going, I can't understand what you guys are saying. A lot of you are talking all over each other, but I have to... I have to go back and listen to the recordings to hear what you say. To hear what you say. So I can't always come back and respond to what you say to me. I have to go back and listen. So when I ask what you need help with, I need a really clear answer for you to explain it to me. Alright, I heard you just say help me. Just say help me. Okay, I understand you want my help. I'm not where you're at. I don't see what you see. Can you explain to me how I'm supposed to help you? What do you expect me to do to help you? Because if you can't explain that to me, and if you can't level with me, be honest with me, and if you can't level with me, be honest with me, I have to say I'm not even going to try to help you. I don't know what kind of spirit you are, and I ask these questions for a certain reason. When I ask you, what do you expect of me to do, I am actually trying your spirit to see whether if you're good or bad. And when you don't answer my question, I assume that you're a bad spirit, you're evil. And I'm not going to help an evil spirit. That's just not going to happen. So what kind of help are you wanting? What do you want me to do to help you? All right. What? What? Can anybody explain it to me, please? What I've just mentioned, can you explain it to me? You do understand that I have to protect myself, right? Alright. I will take your silence as something not good for now. Anybody have anything to say before I shut this down? Huh? Don't turn it off? Are you ready to talk now? Alright, I'm getting Spirit Box speaker out. Directly connect PSB7 Spirit Box directly to this and bypass the Ghost Box. See if I get anything different. If I can even see what I'm doing. Alright. Can you answer me on that question, please? About what you want me to do to help? What do you want me to do to help? Hello? I will see what I can do to help you if you can explain to me what it is you want me to help you with. Alright, is there anything you guys want to say before I shut this off? Alright. I can honestly say that I know I can't hear 90% of the stuff over the spirit box, but I don't know if I got any answers. It's very, very important that I understand what kind of help they're asking for, because I want to make it clear. I don't know what kind of spirit that is that's asking for help. I have no way to verify what kind of spirit that is. And I can't, if a spirit died with an evil, if a human died with an evil heart, they died with an evil heart, they were a murderer or a rapist or just an evil person in their heart, and they died in that condition, and if they are in a dark realm somewhere stuck, I want to make it clear right now, I can't help them, nor will I even try to help them. That's not my place. That's not my place. Now, if there's a humanoid spirit stuck because they were holding on to something, or they died unexpectedly and they don't even know that they're even dead, and I've seen cases like that, then I can do something and talk to them and they'll move on. Cass Roberts on Dead Man Curves is a good example of that. Naomi Mitchell, she just wanted to know everybody to know who her murderer was. She moved on. She's gone. Obviously, Rachel had some unfinished business, because I don't really think she likes the fact that her physical body that she was born in and her soul stayed in was thrown away like garbage. That's my cell phone going off with comments on Ghost of Carmel, Maine. I have to know what these spirits want help with before I can help them. I am not going to risk my safety, nor the safety of my family, nor the safety of my team getting involved with spirits that we have no idea what they really are. And that's for our protection. But anyway, I'm going to continue on trying to get answers from them, what they need help with. But I want to make it clear too, there's a number of spirits that I heard from in the beginning of this. Names like Melissa, Wayne, Huckabee, Naomi Mitchell, numerous names. I mean, you don't even hear from Frankie anymore. I found out who Frankie was, and I think she made her peace and made it clear who she was, and she moved on. This is who Frankie was. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to confront what I think is a possibility of a non-humanoid spirit, and I'm not going to directly talk with it. I don't ever do that unless I'm rebuking it, but obviously there's been some activity in this house that has been dark, and I'm going to see what's going on here. Hopefully I can get down to the bottom of exactly what kind of entities we're dealing with here. I haven't liked the feeling in this house lately, so I think it's time to make something clear. So that's what this is about. The only spirit that I fear above all other spirits is the spirit that created heaven and earth. Heaven and earth. Heaven and earth. He's in control of all things. Alright? And when Jesus died on the cross, the keys to death, hell, and the grave were taken away. Sin was defeated. Evil was defeated. So I fear God. Let me just make that clear right now. I fear God above all other spirits, alright? I don't know if I could say it any more clear than that. And I believe in that God. The one that created the heavens and the earth. I believe his words are true. What? I believe his words are true. I believe his words are true. What? What? God is in control of all things. And for those spirits around here that are non-humanoid, he's much more powerful than you. Much more powerful. He's already defeated you. And I know that. Have you ever asked God for help in the realm you're in? Go away. Can you tell me if you're aware of my existence? Are you aware of me here? So when you ask for help, you're not residual energy, right? I mean, you are an actual spirit asking for help. Am I correct to assume that? Now, many times you've asked for help. I need to understand what that help is that you want. Can you tell me? Can you explain to me what you want me to do to help you? Or do you not understand or know what type of help you need? Do you guys feel like I'm doing everything I can to help you? Help. Okay. The lady that just said help, what do you need help with? What do you want me to do for you? When you guys ask for help, are you stuck and want out of the place which you are stuck? Are you just wanting somebody to talk to? Is there something or you want known to the living? Okay, did you unexpectedly die and you don't know what to do? You do know you're dead, right? Do you know that? Alright, you guys listen. I'm trying to figure out what exactly, if anything, I can do to help you. But I don't have an understanding of what to do until I have an understanding of your situation. And I'm looking into this. Do you guys understand that? I'm looking into this. Do you understand that, or do you not understand what I'm saying? What's your name? That might help. Paul Haskell, Howard Haskell, Viva, Edmund Lamb, Hattie Lamb, Edna Lamb, Hardy. Who are you guys? Can you tell me your name, please? Do you know who Viva and Rachel are? Do you know Phineas Mitchell? Do any of you know Phineas Mitchell? Where is Phineas Mitchell right now? Alright, I don't know if they're responding. I can't hear anything up Spirit Box. I did hear Howard. So, I don't know. It's really hard trying to figure this out, what they want me to do for help. I mean, they ask repeatedly, help me. What do they want me to do to help? Are you wanting to pass on into heaven? Is that what you want help with? The place you're stuck, do you consider that hell? Or do you not know where you're at? It's very creepy where you're at? Is that what you said? Are you guys, like, aware of me? I mean, can you see me? Or do you just have knowledge that I'm here? Can you guys not talk to me now? Alright, well, I'm going to listen to this recording and see what you guys said. And I'll try getting back in contact with you again to see if I have any answers for you, alright? Wow. This is no doubt an aggravating situation. If it was one or two ghosts, I don't think it'd be hard to deal with, but for some reason, somehow, some way, I'm dealing with multiple spirits here. And I can't get too deeply involved with them unless I know exactly what kind of spirit they are. I have to be very careful on the way I handle this because I have to be cautious because I don't know 100% for sure what I'm dealing with. There's a possibility that some of these that say help me could be residual hauntings. Ghosts that are there but not aware of me. Now, the ones that tell me their name and talk to me, they're aware that they're here. They're aware of me. They're aware of the surroundings. Can you guys not talk to me now? But all of the evidence points to the fact that there are a number of ghosts here, and the number of them that I know by name do not approach me for help. They either let me know they're there, they either give me information about another ghost, they talk to me about an investigation I'm doing, but when the voices come in and say, help me, when I ask them about the help they want, I don't get answers on that. As far as the very, very strong, powerful paranormal activity in this house, I have no doubt it's a combination of three things. One, there's residual energy here. There are ghosts here that aren't aware of me, and they're probably not even aware they're even dead. Two, there are intelligent ghosts here that respond to me that are aware that they are dead, they are aware of their surroundings, but yet they don't ask me for help. And with these humanoid spirits, there's also some very angry spirits. I mean, it's obvious, and the evidence has shown there are some very angry male spirits around. Are you one of them? Are you one of them? They call me the F word, they call me names. Now, a lot of people think, well, those are all demonic spirits that's calling you the F word. You know what? I don't know if they are. I'd call them angry spirits because that's what they are. It doesn't matter whether it's humanoid or demonic, they're angry. But there is a lot of dark history, not only here in Carmel, but in the state of Maine. And there's a lot of, numerous untimely deaths involving not just females, but males of those that died in early age here in Carmel. And we don't know for sure what all these young adults died from. I was talking to Kevin. Kevin used to live in this house, and he was telling me when he was in high school, there was a number of his high school classmates that committed suicide one year, locally here. A number of them committed suicide. For a town this small, there have been a number of suicides, there have been a number of murder-suicides, and unbelievable amount of untimely deaths. More than likely, that is why there's a lot of paranormal activity, on top of the possibility that there was some dark cult type practices here in Carmel back in the mid-1800s. And we don't know how many people were involved with those type of dark practices. And it's black magic. It's stuff that came from other countries that involved everything from voodooism to pagan type, dark type spiritualism, to those that did seances trying to summon the dead. And here's a good example of the haunting that took place. The first haunting that took place here in Maine, and listen to this.
Not only is it like one of the earliest ghost stories in Maine from 1799, 1800, but it's one of the most documented ghost stories of all time. But basically what we're looking at is in 1799, 1800 in Sullivan, Maine, which at that time encompassed the towns of not only Sullivan, but Sorrento and Franklin. More than 100 people witnessed the shape-shifting apparition that called itself Nellie Butler. The story was recorded by Abraham Cummings. He was a kind of traveling evangelist, a preacher. He was also extremely knowledgeable. He had written and published on the supernatural. He was a graduate of Brown University in Providence. He collected like a number of eyewitness testimonies and put them together in his 1826 book called Immortality Proved by the Testimony of Sense. And it was specifically about this specter or this apparition, but then it included a lot of other philosophy as well. Usually the seance or encounter would start with some knocking down in the Blaisdell cellar, and then a voice would call people down and they would invoke the spirit. They'd talk for hours, and then finally the ghost would appear. And usually it appeared almost like phosphorescent swamp gas or maybe an orb, and then it would gradually like take the form of a woman, of a shape. And then sometimes it would be like not quite the size of Nellie Butler and then resize itself so that it was the correct size. They said it had an intense luminosity. Sometimes it appeared just like Nellie looked. I mean, she died at 21 years old, so it would look like a young woman, sometimes wearing like her cap or 18th century cap, the clothes she would have worn. Other times it was a little bit more sinister looking. It would be like the shape of a young woman, but be like wrapped in like a burial shroud, so you couldn't actually see the features, and then they would assume it was Nellie. So after appearing this way, then the ghost would like pass back and forth between the people, and then at last it would become shapeless and then just like morph away. We're sitting on the Blaisdell property right now, which is where the hauntings took place. I'm sitting in an 18th century cellar hole that I believe to be Abner Blaisdell's cellar in the foundation of the house in which these hauntings took place. And you had crowds of people jammed into this cellar. They would have been waiting here all night, singing hymns, praying, coming down with a candle, trying to get the spirit to speak. And there was a number of things about this ghost that were very suspicious. The ghost made appointments for when it would speak. It invited people to handle the ghost and see that it had no substance. It harassed skeptics and disbelievers. Seances could only be conducted in the dark and in the cellar of the Blaisdell house. So there was a lot of things that made people think that this is a complete fraud, or it was very strong opinion at the time that the ghost was a demonic imposter. So we're left at a case in which you've got multiple witnesses, a really convincing ghost, but then this controversy that hasn't gone away for more than 2 centuries.
All right, so there is a dark side to every town. Carmel's no exception. But what I find really strange is, for a very small population back in the day, how many dark deaths there were. I mean, how many murders that took place. Not just single murders, but mass murder. And it's obvious to me that something evil got loose back here in the day, and it's been here ever since. And that same evil was the same evil that got a hold of James Hicks, that got a hold of Butch Powell. And we don't even know how many other things happened here back in the day, because we can't find any historical records on this. I mean, we know all these people died at a young age, but we just don't know from what. Can you guys tell me from what? What did the majority of these young people die from? Okay, Edmund, I'm going to ask you this for the very last time. Did you kill Rachel, and how did you kill her? And why did you kill her? How did you kill her? Rachel, are you here? Edmund Lamb. Is there anything... Edmund Lamb. Is there anything you'd like to say to us living people? The young adults that I have on this list here, were any of them murdered? And how many of them were murdered? Eight were murdered. 8 were murdered. Are there any of you here right now whose name's on this list? And if you are here, can you tell me your name, please? Can any of you tell me why there's so many young females that died here? Any of you want to add anything to this before I shut off the spirit box? All right.